In this video, I'm going to go over how my ideal classroom environment acts as the third teacher. I don't have a class of my own just yet, so for this presentation I've combined the slides from my Reggio slides, my Reggio inspired classroom slides, and my ideal classroom slides. The third teacher is the environment, a setting designed to be not only functional, but also beautiful and reflective of the child's learning. Marianne Breimer. I believe that when our environment reflects and supports learning, the students are encouraged to be their best inquisitive selves. Students are naturally curious, and the classroom environment can not only encourage curiosity, but also nurture it. I also really like the idea of lots of shelves that kind of depict what the students are interested in the moment, and also providing great space for high interest books that are also kind of geared towards what students are interested in the moment. I think there are so many ways that we can bring nature indoors into the classroom, and something I really love doing when I'm working with younger students, in particular kindergarten, is having lots of fun nature pieces, not only loose parts, but things that can be used for other purposes like seating or furniture, and just bringing those in and kind of rotating them around. By bringing in parts of nature into the classroom, students are getting familiar with these pieces that they also see out in the natural world, and kind of navigating them and figuring out how they're going to use them for art or creative play or whatever it might be. I think lighting is a very subtle but impactful way to really kind of change your classroom environment. So if I had a choice, I would choose a classroom with very large windows that had the ability to open. I would prefer natural lighting, but I also think that it's fun and interesting to have lighting of different kinds, such as twinkle lights or hanging lights, maybe some lamps, to give that different feel for different times of the day. So if we're doing a quiet, cozy book time, we could dim some lamps and have it nicer, or put on some twinkle lights and have kind of a nice, calm, cozy feel. I also like the idea of using lighting as provocations. So having a light table or putting cool things on the windows as the light comes in, and letting the shadows kind of be a provocation in themselves, and letting the students investigate that further. I'm a big fan of using loose parts. I think there's very little that we can't do with loose parts. They're so wonderful, whether they are simply things that we might find at the dollar store, like beads or these little glass pebbles, or things that come from nature, such as rocks or pine cones or acorns. There's so much that can be done with them. And in many ways, we don't have to tell children what to do with these loose parts. They will just naturally start to sort and play and be creative. But some of the things that I have used loose parts for in the past that I really love is counting, sorting, art, and story workshops. That also brings me to natural loose parts. So going back to the bringing nature inside, I think it's really lovely and really important for us to bring in natural loose parts, small things that can be found in nature that students have the opportunity to interact with and use indoors and become comfortable with. My ideal classroom would also have a real life inspired art center. These are not too difficult, and they're quite inexpensive. And I have seen them be very impactful in the classroom in terms of sparking creativity and giving students kind of that autonomy to create on their own, but also not downplaying it. So giving them real flowers to draw, and things like real shells, real pieces of nature rather than cartoon versions, and seeing what they come up with. I think if we're talking about the environment being the third teacher, then we can't forget things like exploration tables, and just how impactful that can be to have one of those in the classroom there, available for students to look at and learn from. So in my experience, I have used exploration tables as provocations, where you lay some things out, kind of geared towards what we are learning about at the time. And students have the opportunity to interact with those materials. They can play with them, they can ask questions, they can get up close with them and touch them and smell them and feel them. I also believe that if we're going to consider the classroom environment the third teacher, then we should also be bringing our outdoor environment inside. Because at the end of the day, we are teaching young minds. We are teaching young minds that we want to be cognitive about our environment. And so bringing nature inside, I think, is a wonderful way to do that. So I would have many different objects from nature kind of spread around the classroom in different ways, some to be used for centers, some that could be used for math, and some that were just kind of for decor, like plants, things that could be touched and looked at and just sort of there to spark wonder. One reference that I used for this presentation is the following article inspired by Reggio Emilia, Emerging Curriculum in Relationship-Driven Learning Environments. It's a great read, I highly recommend, and it's not too long. And it just kind of goes over, a Reggio Emilia approach in a classroom and a lot of those similar things that I went over in my own presentation. But it's a wonderful little read for kind of just going over how the environment can also impact the students and their learning. So I highly recommend it.